Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian, and we're back with another Pokemon Unite video. This time, I want to be discussing what I think is probably going to be one of the best team comps in the game as of right now. Now, I had already theory crafted this team comp before the actual patch officially got released, but now after playing with it, I can definitely say I definitely believe that this team comp, or at least some variation of this team comp, is definitely going to be one of the best, at least within the ranked environment. Within tournaments and stuff like that, we'll have to remains to be seen as to what's going to happen, but I do think this is probably going to be one of the best team comps you could play, and it should give you guys a lot better idea as to what you could possibly do in your ranked games in order to get value. So as of right now, I will strictly say that I think Venusaur is probably the best Pokemon in the game, hands down. His buff to Giga Drain and Petal Dance is absolutely busted, to the point where if you're running all three special attack held items in the game, so if you're running Choice Specs, Wise Glasses, and Shell Bell, for example, you do insane. Not only do you do insane damage, his damage output is probably one of the highest in the game, but being that Giga Drain and Petal Dance are both AoE moves, especially Petal Dance. Petal Dance is massive in size, ginormous. Petal Dance does insane damage. It makes him super fast. You can't escape from a Venusaur that's spamming Petal Dance. It's just disgusting. You can't escape if you run Eject Bun. You can't escape. You can kind of escape if you run X Speed. He's still faster than you on X Speed, though. It's disgusting. Giga Drain also, considering the fact that one of the Venusaur's typical weaknesses in the game was usually because of the fact that he's an attacker in this game, that his defenses would be low, so he could deal good damage but would also take a lot of damage. However, now because he's running Giga Drain and with the addition of Choice Specs in the game, okay, because of the fact his specials, attacks, and stuff like that are just a lot higher damage output, his Giga Drain heals him for a ton of HP. I'm not joking when I say I typically will end up healing myself 400, 600 HP on a single Giga Drain. And something I noticed too is that if you hit 2 or 3 people at the exact same time with Giga Drain, the cooldown gets significantly lowered, sometimes just completely resetting depending on how big the team fight is. And you can just spam Giga Drain and just keep healing yourself. And because of Giga Drain's ability to take less damage for a short while after using Giga Drain, you basically become kind of tanky as Venusaur. You get lots of heals and you take less damage with a giant AoE move known as Petal Dance. It's disgusting. The dude is a walking tornado. He's just, wherever he is, death follows. That's what happens. This dude, I personally believe that as of right now in the current version of the game, and you guys might be noticing this as well, whatever team does not run a Giga Drain Petal Dance Venusaur is typically gonna be at a disadvantage just because of how crazy and oppressive this guy can be. I might even include some clips from my stream playing this dude, because I was just fighting entire teams because I was just so tanky and I was healing so much and doing so much damage. I was just 1v3ing and 1v5ing enemy teams and living and killing multiple people. It was disgusting. But as of right now, because of this Venusaur being one of the best Pokemon, I personally believe that in a team comp, Venusaur is pretty much your carry, and the team comp kind of revolves around Venusaur. Whoever's Venusaur dies first will typically probably end up losing, assuming both teams run the Giga Drain Petal Dance Venusaur. Alongside Venusaur's changes, I'm essentially going to be calling the current meta the AoE meta, just because of the fact that I think all of the best Pokemon to be played right now are all Pokemon that have some sort of giant AoE moves or zoning potential of some form. Okay, so this could be ranged Pokemon. This could be Pokemon like Charizard, who have Fire Blast, okay, whose ultimate also has a good deal of range too. A lot of AoE Pokemon in the game I think are all the best, particularly because of the fact that when you stack all of the AoE moves in the game with Venusaur, it is absolutely disgusting damage and kind of pressure to put on the enemy team during team fights. Absolutely insane. So because of this, I think one of the best builds you could run right now is going to be Venusaur with the Giga Drain Petal Dance combo, Charizard with at least Fire Blast in his kit. Okay, one thing to note is that Charizard's, I'd probably even say Flamethrower too, like a Fire Blast, Flamethrower. Charizard's ultimate also got really buffed, so he does insane damage and heals himself. And he's an all-rounder, so he can take a decent hit too. So this guy alongside Venusaur is good. I would say that I feel like Charizard's mainly only really good right now, particularly because of Venusaur. So if you don't have a Venusaur, I don't think you're going to have as much success on Charizard without a Venusaur on your team. That's just my own personal opinion though. Okay. Other roles, for example, that I think will also support the strategy. On the support category, I think Mr. Mime is great because Mr. Mime was already a really good zoner if you're running Barrier Confusion, all right? With this AoE team comp, okay, he just adds on to that. His ultimate is the fastest ultimate charge in the game in his big AoE. Good stuns, good damage. His barrier is great for zoning off and blocking people. And with Venusaur and Charizard being in the mix as well too, especially with like a Charizard applying slows and whatnot, and Venusaur's range and just damage output in general, it is great for just trapping people, setting up kills, denying space. With Venusaur and Charizard on your team, they can easily hold down the fort after they get those moves on a goalpost, because they can just, like, Charizard can just use Fire Blast on a goalpost and just stop the enemy from scoring because they're taking so much damage that they, like, if they have Score Shield, they can't, it's gonna rip past their Score Shield. So they can't score. Venusaur on top of that is just the same thing. It's gonna do so much damage and be survival. It's almost like an all-rounder that does crazy damage. Another Pokemon that I also think is really good in this particular team comp is Blissey. Now, the main reason you would run Blissey in this team comp is specifically, how should I put it? Specifically to pocket your Venusaur, okay? Your Venusaur. You can also run her to pocket your Charizard as well in the early game, just because the fact that both of them kind of need help in the early game. But at least once you're past the early game and you're like in the mid to late game and Venusaur has started unlocking his Giga Drain and Petal Dance, you want to have Blissey basically pocket your Venusaur. Mainly because of the fact that even though Venusaur does crazy damage and has good heals and sustain, he can still take a beating potentially. And having Blissey run Safeguard Helping Hand to the shield and CC immunity from the Safeguard to basically just shield your Venusaur basically gives them that extra insurance policy from the shield to stay alive and help secure fights. On top of the Helping Hand, not only giving him even more speed than he already needs, helps him do basic, because you can do basic attacks as Venusaur while in your Petal Dance. So helps his damage output tremendously. Still helps the rest of your team and their team fights too with the Helping Hand. And your Unite move can just essentially just pop your Unite move on either your Charizard, who's going to ult, or your Venusaur when using Petal Dance, and boom, you just got an unstoppable hurricane that's going through. It's absolutely crazy. I've had such a good success rate playing Blissey so far, pocketing all the Venusaurs and like Charmanders as of lately. It's actually crazy. Mr. Mime's actually pretty decent in this current meta, in my opinion, too. This AoE meta. Some of the other Pokemon that I think are also going to be pretty decent. So I already mentioned Charizard. I don't think, now weirdly enough, even though that pretty much all of the physical attackers got buffed up because of the new Razor Claw item in the game, because of the AoE meta, if you're running into an AoE team and you're playing a physical attacker like Lucario or Machamp or Grunchop, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have a really tough time, just because there's so much damage, there's so much AoE, you just can't get past anything. There's just too much zoning control, too much map control. It's disgusting. Attackers that I think could also work really well in this particular type of team comp outside of Venusaur are going to be Gardevoir and Ninetales. Okay, Gardevoir if you're running Psychic and Psyshock. Okay, now people tend to sleep on Psychic. Psychic is actually really good. People usually opt for the Moonblast, but I think Psychic is arguably better if you're running Psyshock anyways, just because of it lingers for a while. It has a mini AoE and applies the slow. The slow in particular still achieves the job of kind of holding people in their tracks long enough for you to hit them with the Psyshock, which is kind of the whole point of running Moonblast in the first place, right? To keep them in the same spot so you can hit them with the Psyshock. Psychic still does the same job, okay, but it acts as a mini AoE. So a lot of times you can just kind of chuck the Psychic in areas that you want to zone out the enemy, or like with Charizard that I gave, for example, with this Fire Blast, you can just like chuck it at a goalpost and just pressure them, okay, just zone them out. And obviously you have Psyshock, which has crazy range and big AoE damage and crazy damage output too. With the release of choice specs as well, Gardevoir's damage output is just through the roof. Here, she already has the highest special attack stat in the game, so it's just disgusting. So if you're going to run Gardevoir in this team comp, I personally believe that you would run her as the jungler. Any of the other special attackers, I think, would probably be better as like a jungler. Okay, and her ultimate's also AoE, which basically like crowds controls and does crazy damage, and everyone can spam damage into Gardevoir's ultimate as well. Disgusting. The other Pokemon that I think is also pretty good is Alolan Ninetales. She also got a few buffs, particularly to her Blizzard, which is where when you push her into a wall, essentially, it applies additional icicle damage, which can essentially let you basically freeze them almost a second time immediately. It's kind of disgusting and does good damage at the same time too. Being that her ultimate is also a giant AoE move, she applies CC, she's ranged. If you're running Avalanche for the wall, you can essentially do the Avalanche Blizzard combo, put the wall behind them, use Avalanche to shove them into your wall. It's actually disgusting. It's worth noting too that at least on paper, I think Alolan Ninetales with Mr. Mime is actually a really potentially good combo as of right now too, with the Blizzard buff, because now you can actually use Mr. Mime's barriers with Ninetales, what's it called? Blizzard, to use Blizzard to push somebody into Mr. Mime's barrier and get the additional damage from Ninetales Blizzard buff. Almost like you're using Confusion, Mr. Mime's Confusion combo, his Wombo combo. But now both of you can do it. It's actually kind of cool. I do think that this type of strategy would only work though on players who are already good at aiming with Ninetales. So if you're not a Ninetales player, this is probably not gonna, like a Ninetales main, this is probably not gonna really work for you too much unless you get some practice in on it. But I think the potential is there. Another potential Pokemon I think could also work very well is Cramorant, just because Cramorant already has good like AoE-ish type CC moves, and his ultimate's AoE. So these three attackers I think are also potential second attackers you could run in the team comp. And last but not least, personally, I don't think you actually need a defender in the team comp, just because of the fact that Venusaur already kind of acts like a all-rounder, with Blissey pocketing him to make him tanky anyways with his Giga Drain, and he's just a walking tornado. It's hard for people to approach him once he's online. Everyone's pretty much ranged. You have Mr. Mime kind of acting as like a tank in the... almost like acting like a tank anyways on the team too with his barriers. Blissey is pocketing everybody, making them stronger and pocketing the hard carry. With all the AoE on the team, all the AoE moves being spammed basically act as like free walls, barriers, essentially, because the enemy team is not going to be able to approach you in the first place when there's so much AoE damage happening near them, especially if there's some sort of physical melee range Pokemon in the game. So I think this is potentially going to be one of the craziest team comps in the game. If any of you guys are playing 5 stacks on a team, I highly recommend trying out some variation of these Pokemon, because I think it's actually disgusting. So this is my thoughts in terms of probably one of the best team comps in the game. And I think if people just had enough practice on like some variation of this team comp, it's just disgusting. It's just busted. There's so much damage, so much AoE. It puts so much pressure on the enemy that they just cannot approach. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. So anyways, that's the main idea behind all this. Go ahead and let me know what your guys' thoughts and comments are in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, because I think it's particularly interesting. Venusaur is definitely the hard carry in the team. As long as you make sure your Venusaur stays alive, especially if you're playing Blissey, you're pretty much golden from my experience. All right, so without further ado, guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. I really just wanted to talk about this real quick. Other than that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, hit that bell button. It's the best way I know when I upload more videos such as this one. Helps the boost the YouTube algorithm. I would really appreciate it. Other than that, though, my name is Brian, and I will see you guys in the next Pokemon Unite video. Peace, guys.